In patch 7.5, the long-awaited BeastMaster limited job is finally releasing, and at the last live letter, we saw how it plays. And while 7.5 looks incredible to me overall, I walked away with a massive sense of disappointment for the new job. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and in today's video, I want to go over why I don't like the execution for BeastMaster as a limited job, negative sentiment towards limited jobs as a whole, and also why this matters going forward. So grab your pal spheres. Do they even still have those? And let's dive in. Let's start with how BeastMaster plays. To make a long stream segment short, seriously, the thing went on forever. It's essentially a melee summoner with a one-handed axe and a shield as its main weapons. Out of a catalog of 50 beasts that you collect like a monster taming game, the Pokédex looks like this, by the way. You can make a loadout of 3 beasts that in combat you will cycle through, changing 4 of your buttons based on what beast you have out in the field. Now this is largely for solo play, or at least actually getting the beasts, which is what a lot of people, myself included, wanted out of Blue Mage to begin with. So with them addressing that criticism, what's exactly my problem with BeastMaster? It looks fine, right? Well, to put it simply, the job looks held back. We can get into minutia about how the slides for BeastMaster before sounded originally, but when you have a system such as limited jobs, I as a player want there to be a power fantasy there. I want to be able to do things that ordinarily wouldn't work for regular play, and to treat it like a fleshed out minigame that lets me do a bunch of awesome and crazy things. That's the kind of gameplay flow I would want out of a limited job. So when the job that is showed to me is basically just a melee version of a real job with Summoner, it's massively disappointing. BeastMaster is one of the most common, generic, and popular class fantasies in RPGs, and in particular, MMORPGs. Heck, in World of Warcraft, I am currently maining a hunter. Okay, technically I'm a survival hunter, but look right here. Beast Mastery is right here. And with Beast Mastery, I'm able to summon in a whole host of different pets. Like, look at this. I have my cat I called Cosmos because I'm a Xeno freak. I'm summoning a whole, pack here. I have another pet out that I've already tamed. And just, look at everything I'm able to do. And this is a regular spec in World of Warcraft. Unlike in Final Fantasy XIV, where BeastMaster looks tied down and held back in comparison. In WoW, I can raid, PvP, everything else a regular class can do. Heck, traditionally, Hunter's one of the most popular classes in World of Warcraft's history. Having your competition be able to implement very basic class fantasy as a baseline class to begin with, way before you get around to finally implementing it, is not a good look to begin with. But then when it just comes off as a slight modification of a different regular job with Summoner, it's an even worse look. If I want the feeling of cycling through different monsters for different abilities, I already have that with Summoner. Now it seems as if the only unique things that BeastMaster has going for it is that it's one melee and you have 50 summons to choose from, and also when you go to collect them all. It's like monster collecting in Final Fantasy is a really cool idea, and I like the sounds of the Blue Carnival analog that BeastMaster is going to have. This being it, for me, that's disappointing to say the least. I'm sure it'll be fun for a bit, but I just know whenever I play it, I'm just going to be thinking about what could have been. This re-aggravates a foundational issue with Final Fantasy XIV content designed for me. It often comes off, unless it's a raid or a trial, as the tamest, most basic interpretation of what the system could be. This seems like the exact design I would recommend to convert a BeastMaster from a really cool and out-of-this-world limited job into a regular job so that it can play regular content. But apparently this is just the design that apparently can't work for the rest of the game. I kinda get why. Don't get me wrong, they want the abilities that the beast can do to not be concerned with regular balance, and Final Fantasy XIV historically has always suffered with pet mechanics, leading to the current state of something like Summoner. I get that, I do, but the player doesn't care. The player will always predominantly just care about the execution, what ships on launch day. To the player, your competition can get this right, why can't you? Now, you may have an actual reason for that, but most players out there aren't not going to care. They're going to care about what gets shipped out the door. People waited all of Dawntrail for something that looks held back and basic. It takes the wind out of the sails of a patch that we are, one, going to be stuck with for seemingly the rest of the calendar year, and two, the patch actually looks great outside of this one thing, which is also, funnily enough, one of the biggest features and potential time sinks of the patch. Like, it's not the end of the world or anything, but it does a dang poor job justifying the existence of limited jobs when it doesn't look particularly special or satisfying or exciting. Most people out there aren't going to care about, oh, BeastMaster's not going to be able to function properly in like an ultimate raid or something, because most people out there aren't going to be doing ultimates. They're going to be looking at this and say, hey, I remember all those years ago when I played a Night Elf Hunter in World of Warcraft. Why can't I do that here? Why must it be this like segregated minigame? Why are we doing this? Personally speaking, I would much rather, if this is going to be the way BeastMaster is released, just to hold back on the mechanics of some of the beasts and just find a way to make it a regular job, because in that realm, it could be somewhat interesting. My biggest problem with Summoner isn't like how it plays, I just want a few more buttons to it. Right now, it gives off the vibe, I'm talking about like BeastMaster here, of modern Blue Mage, something to be kind of ignored and put on the back burner developmentally, because how can Square Enix justify devoting resources to hyper niche content that most players probably won't interact with when those resources could be devoted elsewhere? Like, you can make the same argument to Ultimate, but Ultimate, in my opinion, does a heck of a better job advertising the game to begin with, because it looks really dang cool and it's a fun race to follow. And also, the premise of just going back to redo a Realm Reborn dungeons and raids yet again, it doesn't particularly excite me. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but I also don't think I'm alone on this. In a vacuum, BeastMaster being disappointing isn't too much of a big deal, but it continues a trend of non-rating content in Final Fantasy XIV being disappointing, at least to me. This matters because one of Final Fantasy XIV's biggest weaknesses is overworld content, and it's an MMORPG. I don't mind having content designed for single-player play. That's not the issue here. But when you have an MMORPG, even if I'm playing by myself, it's important to make the world feel like it's a living, breathing world, giving me an actual reason to be out in the world doing interesting things. There's only like 50 beasts shipping with this thing. That's not a big number. Now, when it comes to raids, Final Fantasy XIV is amazing. Dungeons, however, nowadays feel overly formulaic. Open world content being fates or hunt trains and dailies, I mean, come on. Blue Mage just gets kicked down the road yet again like a can, and now we're getting BeastMaster. These small little gashes in the armor add up over time, and to me, compromise the game state. Now, seemingly, we are in for quite a bit of change with 8.0, and this is one of the reasons I want to talk about this right now, because what I've said so far sounds very doomer, but they do have an opportunity with a new expansion on the horizon that they're going to be announcing like within a week, coming off an expansion where copious amounts of criticism have been provided. They have an opportunity to nudge this game in a far better direction. The point I'm making isn't that BeastMaster is going to be a complete failure or that it's going to be a complete snorefest, but it's clearly, to me, not living up to the potential that it should. We've been down this road before, this road of disappointment with really cool new or returning systems just kind of falling flat. A great example of this, Island Sanctuaries. If Final Fantasy XIV can redirect their efforts and try to flesh out this side of the game, I'm not talking about BeastMaster, I'm talking about non-rating content. Even if it's in small ways, that would be a multiplicative effect to increase general excitement with the game. Because if this side of Final Fantasy XIV gets fixed, or at least course corrected, it can inspire people to want to play the other parts of Final Fantasy XIV where the game really shines. It's all about having a well-rounded experience that feeds into itself because people have a desire to log in and play more because they have a variety of content to do, instead of feeling like they need to log in to tick off some checklists because they have a bunch of chores, which is what a lot of non-rating content can feel like. BeastMaster is supposed to be something that feels like a breath of fresh air, and instead, it feels like a tame system that will almost certainly get the Blue Mage treatment down the line when excitement starts to really wear down. Because yet again, like with Blue Mage, how can they justify devoting time and resources and manpower to something not a lot of people are really playing that also doesn't do a good enough job of advertising patches and the game overall? It just doesn't make logistical sense. Like, you give BeastMaster a couple of patches, and they're probably getting the Blue Mage treatment. In an ideal world, that wouldn't happen, but it feels very likely to me. Now, I am still going to play BeastMaster, I'll try it out, but I generally have pretty good instincts when it comes to stuff I'm going to enjoy or whether I'm not going to enjoy it. This feels like something I'm going to play for like a week or so and then get kind of tired of. And again, I don't think I'm going to be alone here, but here's hoping that 8.0 looks amazing when they reveal it. And here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on BeastMaster. Are you looking forward to it? Are you very disappointed in how it's turning out like I kind of am? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives, and I also want to hear your thoughts on limited jobs overall. Do you think they have a place in Final Fantasy XIV, or do you think they should just be ignored going forward? And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe, because we have a ton of Final Fantasy XIV stuff to cover in the near future. I mean, we have patch 7.5 coming out, and also FanFest with the announcement of the next expansion 8.0. We're going to be focusing up and locking in. Now, I did mention before, 7.5 overall looks like a really good patch, and when it comes to the main story, man, I'm over the moon when it comes to being excited for this thing. Oh my god, that's easily one of the best trailers they've ever made. So you know I had to watch it. Want to find out more? Not only about the trailer for patch 7.5, but for 7.5 overall, check out this video right here for more. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.